Hey, what's up, people? This is Ike Love, creator and author of the blog, The Viable Alternative, which is an inspirational blog where I share the wisdom and insights gained along my path of becoming a greater, stronger version of myself. And if you want to read more on the website and you're on YouTube, you can click on the window where it says Show More, and you'll see a link for www.theviablealternative.com. The site I haven't updated in quite a while. And, I mean, not on the site, now the video. It's been about like 3 weeks since I posted my last video, which I totally apologize. I just had things going on in my life, and I had to, I actually knew I was going to take a break from it, you know. I just had to reset certain things in my life, and so, you know, I had to put this in the back burner. But you were always on my mind. I always thought about you guys, and just, you know, spreading just more wisdom and insights from my own path and my own journey. So today what I want to talk about is how to unstifle yourself. And I know that can be a very vexing issue in a lot of people's lives. The fact of just not being able to express yourself fully. The fact of being stifled. The fact that you feel like there's a vice grip on your mind and you just like feel like your real self is on hold. And you see other people who are interacting, they're free, and you just completely envy them. They're like aliens to you because you're just like, wow, I wish I can do that. They're just something that's completely blocking me from really fully expressing myself. And you just can't seem to get by it. I mean, I myself went through this for years, and I was just completely, utterly, like I just felt my mind was in chains. And out of all the books I've read and seminars I'd gone to, nothing really seemed to help, you know. And life sucked. I mean, it really is one of the worst things when you know you have a self inside and you just can't share it with the world, you know. It feels like just a part of you is just like being in prison. And yeah, being in prison. And really, life loses its color when you're not really fully able to share of who you are and what God, the gifts and uniqueness God has given to you. So I have a solution. I'm coming from the other side to share with you what I've learned on how to free yourself and how to unstifle yourself and to be fully self-expressed. Now, the first thing in regards to self-expression is you have to understand that a stifled mind is a result of a stifled body. And what the hell do I mean by that? Well, Western philosophy, Western thought, Western science has it that the mind and body are separate. The mind is here and the body's here, and they're two separate entities, and you deal with them separately. But Eastern philosophy and also the emerging science of neuroscience, the emergent science of neuroscience, are indeed discovering that the mind and body are indeed one. And, you know, it's thought that the head is what holds the mind. But like, again, the new sciences and Eastern philosophy or neuroscience are showing that the mind is actually everywhere in our bodies. And that initially what they're finding is that the neuroreceptors in our brains are also found in different parts of our body. As a matter of fact, they say that the neural network within our gut is actually the size of a cat's brain. And there's also a neural network in our heart that sends messages to the brain just as the brain sends messages to the heart. So therefore, we're discovering that indeed the mind is not what we thought it was. And the mind is indeed in the body as well as, the minds are indeed in the body as well as are in our brains. And they're all connected, and one affects the other, and vice versa. So when we're talking about now being stifled, and the stifled mind being reflections of a stifled body, in order to, well, what happens is when we're all stiff, you know, like me, I've struggled with that for a very long time. It sends signals to the mind that something is going on. It sends signals that there's a danger happening, or that it's not safe to loosen your bodies. And therefore, our thoughts correspond to that. Like, we're stifled, we're stiff, it signals prison, it signals constraint, and therefore the corresponding thoughts are constrained. We're holding ourselves down, and therefore our thoughts are held down. So what we want to do now is to send an opposite signal. So what we do is we have to free our bodies. And the reason why our bodies are usually stiff and so tight is because we have emotions, emotional trauma from our past that we did not know how to process. So we're stiffening our body so that we do not feel these emotions that are trapped in our bodies. Emotions like sadness, anger, resentment, fear, terror, abandonment, shame. All these things we hold in our bodies and we stiffen ourselves so we don't feel them. And through the guidance of a therapist or through practices like yoga or dance and stuff like that, we can learn now to loosen our bodies so that we can loosen our minds. And so when we loosen our bodies, we can then loosen the flow of the thoughts. Because when we have our bodies stiff, we are holding back the flow of energy. Energy that not only flows within our bodies, but flows to our minds. And with that, again, is why we feel so stifled, because we're sending stifled signals to our mind, and therefore our thoughts are constrained. We're not able to free ourselves. And again, yeah, we have to, again, I think actually starts with therapy, like a body-centered therapy, or also practices like bioenergetics, where as we learn to unstifle our bodies, we learn to express the emotion, our muscles weaken. And as our muscles weaken, the energy starts flowing and our mind becomes, our thoughts become more free flowing. So that's one of the things. And what sucked, I never got this in any, well, I didn't get this years later, but I searched and searched for answers like this, and I never came up with anything like this, you know. Went through years before I was able to find the answer to a situation like this. And my second and final reason on why you're so stifled is, again, due to trauma, but sometimes you're going through something called an emotional flashback. Emotional flashback, where basically speaking, like again, a lot of us have been through trauma in our life, especially in childhood. We go through a situation. See, what's traumatic to an adult is different from what's traumatic to a child. A child is number one, very. Child is very. It thinks the whole world centers around him or her, and so how do I say this? Yeah, thinks the whole world centers around him and her. So a lot of times a child takes something personally, and so when something happens, like so something that's seemingly insignificant to an adult is determined as traumatic as a child, because not only does a child center itself around itself and takes everything personally, but also it's dependent on life and death. It's dependent on life and death, dependent of their parents for life and death, you know. And because their parents are their whole world, any little thing can happen, could be determined as some type of like threat to the kid's life. Like, you know, you're in a supermarket and your mom disappears for just like, I don't know, 10 seconds. All of a sudden the kid, his whole world has disappeared. Now I think he's going to die. Therefore, it's a traumatic experience. Or again, with the kids taking things personally, the parents fight, the kid thinks it's his fault. Or the dad walks out of the house, the kid thinks it's his fault. All these different things amount to traumatic experience. And now what happens during trauma is that if you are have a similar experience that happens in real life and as an adult, it can trigger back the memory of what happened, the traumatic experience that happened to when you were a child, and put you back in that instance when you were a child. Now, what a child does with his limited understanding is it copes. It uses its limited view on the world to make its interpretation of what's going on. So you're an adult here, you're living life, you're in a social interaction, and you're feeling stifled, you can't express yourself, and you're like, what the F? Why can't I express myself? Why can't I be free and just be among these people? But what you don't know is possibly you are dealing in a flashback where you're back to in the mind or in the space of a 5-year-old or 4-year-old or 3-year-old child dealing with some type of trauma. And with that trauma going on, the kid is probably in a flight or fright response, it's frozen, it's petrified, or it's just basically speaking being stiff just to cope in the situation with this limited, mature, undeveloped mind. So you're an adult wondering what the hell's going on, not realizing you're back being that 5-year-old child who's traumatized. And therefore, that 5-year-old child who's traumatized doesn't give a damn about your human social interaction when you're 19 or 35 or 50 years old. It is trying to survive in this environment way back when it was traumatized. So what you have to do is, through help, you have to now kind of like become aware of the fact that you're dealing with a flashback and slowly coax yourself out of the flashback by telling your young child that things are safe and you're no longer trapped in that situation that traumatized you. And that's also a process that usually helps with some type of therapist that deals with stuff like this. So these are the 2 reasons why you are stifled. Number 1, a stifled body is a stifled mind, or it's a reflection of a stifled mind is a reflection of a stifled body. And number 2, you're dealing with some type of flashback, again, a trauma, and you're trapped in that trauma, going through it all over again. And therefore, you have to now find ways on how to let yourself, your child, know that you no longer are in that trauma. And that also takes some deep breathing, being present, notifying yourself that this is just a flashback and that it's safe for you to express yourself. And with time, you'll be able to let go of that behavior. So I hope all this helps. If you want to read more on my blog, you can go again to www.theviablealternative.com. One day I'll get to updating it. In the meantime, enjoy my old wisdom, my wisdom insights. They're very helpful. You can also follow me on Twitter, The Viable Alt. And if you like what I had to say, please smash that subscribe button. Click on like. And if you like anything I had to say, please leave a nice, fuzzy, warm comment. All right, hope all this helps. Enjoy the rest of your evening, day, week, whenever you're watching this, and wish you many blessings. God bless. I was going to say something else, but I forgot. Yeah. God bless, and peace.